fight, 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 fight.
Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me, of course, is my good friend, Mr. Ty Beard. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I've been better.
Yeah, well.
But here we are. Here we are. And we're doing something that we haven't done in a while because there hasn't been any of these in 4 years. But we're going to watch a presidential.
Yeah, this time Drexel hopefully won't have to bail you out at the end like 4 years ago.
Never happened. It never happened. Oh,
Yeah,
my
okay.
God.
Okay.
But this is great because I had this thing all set up in Rumble Studio, which was giving you just absolute hell and it wasn't working. So that was nice. But then what happened next is, wait, is it going over here? Am I live on two different fucking streams? I honestly don't even know. I think I might be live on two streams right now.
On two YouTube streams?
No, wait. No, okay, never mind. It was a weird mix up with the studio. This thing is a disaster. Everything's fucking broken, Ty. Everything is broken.
Don't get me started.
But I'm trying to use Rumble Studio because, you know, they want me to. And it's cool, but it doesn't work right. So we were having trouble getting your video through. And then right when I was going to start the stream anyway and just say, well, Ty will, fend for himself. Rumble went down entirely. So good job on that. I can't really do anything about it. So we're here on YouTube.
I should probably just go ahead and confess that I destroyed Rumble. It was me.
Yeah, I think, yes, you should do that.
Yeah.
I'll try and get a Rumble stream loaded ASAP. I should be able to add Rumble into this thing if I can get Rumble to fucking load up. But Rumble and Locals are both down. A testament to top tier. I guess whatever it is. Yeah, Locals is toast. Perfect. So we're just going to be here.
Has a different stream than YouTube, right?
Wait, yeah, it's like it's on Rumble rather than on YouTube. It's different, Ty.
So
it's like that's like saying Best Buy has a different checkout line than Walmart.
Well, yeah, okay. I see your point.
They're in different buildings with different pipes.
How do I see Rumble? I guess I just bring up Rumble in a separate window and show its stream.
Yeah, you can't. The rumble.com is down currently.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, this page isn't working right now. Okay, well, there you go.
Everybody at Rumble and Locals right now is shitting their pants amazingly hard. But yeah, so here we are. I can't bring up either Rumble or Locals. I do have the feed for the presidential debate. I have it pulled up here. It's muted for now because people are just yakking about nonsense, and I don't really care.
Well, we can out-yak any of those guys.
Here we go. It's like, see, this guy's talking. And, yeah. Oh.
Why would anybody want to listen to them when they can listen to us?
It's like watching constipation in real time. But yeah, so we've got, we're going to do the debate stream tonight and see how it goes. It starts in 4 minutes. I'll pull it up when the presidents enter the stage. And we'll get into this. I know everybody wants to talk about me because I'm super important, and everybody is very interested. But you're not going to get much out of me on this one, guys. Like I said before, I will let the government process take run its course and do my talking there. So if you're looking for answers about my situation, you'll just have to wait.
Just bite him. Yeah. Well,
and but you're of course welcome to send any super chats, and I will address what I can. I'm still going to read all of them unless they contain. Some people are really mad because some of the moderators were removing private information about children, I think, and they may have removed other stuff. I wasn't watching, so it's hard to say. But if anybody feels they were unjustly removed from the channel the other night, please let me know somehow. and I'll get you on. I'll probably just go clear the roles anyway. I wasn't intending to have people actually removed, but certain information probably shouldn't have been said on a YouTube chat window. But I left it up to the moderators because I wasn't even close to my screen to be able to do it. But we'll get that fixed. If anybody was removed, it's not my intention to have people removed from the channel or anything like that. Not a big fan of that sort of thing, but it's kind of the stupid process that they have built in. With that, we do have a first chat from JZF says, why do you each of y'all think is Trump's? Who do each of y'all is Trump's most likely VP pick, and who do you think it should be? Also, it's the VP. It doesn't matter. Lol.
True. Well, who do you think?
Who is his VP pick? I think he's like
Burgum. So the short list seems to be Burgum. Is that his name? Burgum, Rubio, and Vance.
He wouldn't pick Little Marco. No way does he pick Little Marco.
That would be a stunt pick. I think Marco would be fine because, as you say, the VP doesn't matter. But I think Burgum is the one that's going to get it because he supposedly can kind of calm down some of the establishment Republicans who are still, butthurt about Trump existing.
I mean,
Vance is he's a very smart guy, but he's into his first Senate term. I wouldn't run the risk.
The thing about the vice president is the person's right. They largely don't matter. They can be used as like a don't remove me or you get this person kind of thing. But I really don't think Trump's got that kind of pick. And what's interesting to me is just a little constitutional point. The vice president is literally useless. Like they have no power. They have nothing imbued upon them. They're, I guess, an officer of the United States, but they're not, under Article 2, they're not given any authority. They can be they should just go get coffee for the president or whatever.
Well, and in the original system where the loser was the vice president, it was even worse because he wasn't even part of the president's cabinet.
Right.
So other than basically presiding over the Senate, and the Senate wasn't really interested in the vice president's input because he was just essentially a glorified sergeant of arms.
I kind of liked the vice president as the loser candidate until you think about like the incentive to assassinate that's created by having the opponent become the second in command, second in the chain of succession. So it's pretty interesting to think about like, oh yeah, we could have just killed him and gotten our guy in.
Yeah, I think
it's like a thing that
might have been on their minds when they changed that.
Right.
They changed it fairly quickly. I don't remember exactly when, but it was pretty quick. I would say Burgum is the likely guy. Myself, I would like to see somebody like I think Ben Carson would be a great pick if he
that guy. Did he even run HUD?
Well, I mean, he'll have a role in the administration no matter what, but he's just very, very, very smart, very calm, very low drama. I would have loved to have seen Ron DeSantis, but there's a constitutional problem where if one of them would have to change their legal residency, or Florida's electoral votes wouldn't count.
This is way loud. I think so. I'm going to turn it down a hair. Oh my God. I can't look at them. Dana. Her name is Dana. Your name is Dana, Bash. Not Dana Bash.
Yeah.
Dana.
Well, we've got people who have compared Trump with Hitler that are going to be objective moderators. That I want to see.
It doesn't. They don't have the audio. Hold on one second. Let me fix that. I realized what I did there. It's because of how I have to share the screen. Thank you for letting me know, guys. We'll get it.
Punch cards to make it work.
To share audio, share a tab or screen instead. Okay, that'll be fun. Here we go. Share. I have it muted. Here we go. Should be better now, guys. Sorry about that. All right, Carrie, thank you for the chat. Shut Up, I Can Cook says, hugs, kisses, and love, Nick, plus prayers. Thank you. We the Rabble says, welcome back. Not going to lie, your haircut looks a lot like Richard Spencer. Ew. Besides that, let's get into it. USA, USA. We'll try. 2 minutes for closing statements. Who can do a closing statement of anything in 2 minutes?
it's what I'm going to be most interested in is if these moderators are even going to
It can't
pretend to be
still
fair,
be fucking
even
muted. Hold on.
Oh,
Still muted. Hold on. What the fuck is going on here? I don't want to pull this up in a different way.
can you activate the closed captioning? Okay.
Let me figure this out here. Present. Oh. Also share system audio. That should have it.
Hey!
Is their top concern the economy? President Biden, inflation has slowed.
Caleb Crow says Barnes is adamant his VP life insurance is crucial.
Has increased. For example,
I can barely hear the stream.
Oh, I can turn them up.
$120. And typical home prices.
I think I need to turn myself down a little bit.
What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
You got to take a look at what I was left when I became president.
Oh my God, he sounds terrible.
Trump left me.
Yeah.
We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious.
I don't think his meds are working as well as they.
All right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs.
Turn it up more. Hold on one second.
It rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come from a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range.
What's gas at the kitchen table?
It's so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're
Homie, everything went
2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination of what I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now.
He looks like he's speed reading a teleprompter.
Situation where if you take a look
well,
at
they leaked the questions to him.
He didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos.
He left you the vaccine program that you loved. I hated it. What an asshole.
We brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for
I'm going to try to time these answers because I'm going to make sure they give
has to pay more
the right amount of time to each one.
For any drug.
I don't trust these guys at all.
Next year, and the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Biden's kitchen table involves gasoline and prescription drugs. Sounds awesome.
In the history of our country, we have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things.
Wars.
Everything was rocking.
No
good.
wars is huge,
but
actually.
The thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world.
Wait a minute.
Anyone thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks we have the greatest economy.
I thought it was 2 minutes and 1 minute.
No, the fact of the matter is that
we're going to bring us down a little bit, Ty.
Okay.
His economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still found ourselves in a position where you had a notion that
you put us in
a
Afghanistan.
safe country. The truth is, I'm the only
The guy's going to laugh through his teeth. That's what he
that
does.
doesn't have any, this decade, that done any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. And they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power.
This is a good one.
He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over
bad.
the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say.
More tax
With
cuts.
the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes?
Don't swallow the premise.
The tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job.
Yeah, the mandate's the only thing that made the vaccine actually bad.
But throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000.
He's not going to last.
The tax cuts on the wealthy benefit the working class.
Happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period.
$500 billion in a 10-year period is nothing.
Make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure
you guys are talking $4 and $8 trillion.
Healthcare system.
Well, Nick, this is what I was getting at. Letting Biden ramble for 2 solid minutes without interruption is going to backfire on Biden.
With the COVID, dealing with everything we have to do with.
Look at Trump.
Look, if We finally beat Medicare.
Oh my God.
Thank you, President Biden.
He
President
looks
Trump.
like me a couple streams
He was
ago.
right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social
If Biden
Security.
is losing the
Destroy
thread
Social Security. This man
10
is
minutes into this debate.
single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is
Joe,
not
you're
to be
rubbing your
believed.
leg. Trust
Foreign
me.
countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot
Wow, this
believe
is
what
gonna be a
happened to the
disaster.
United States of America. We're no longer respected.
Look at him.
They
He's
don't
zoning
like
out.
us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Hannah?
This is the first presidential
You see that? Biden started
Supreme
talking.
Court overturned
God,
Roe
I
v.
ju-
Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet
We're
another
still talking to
abortion
presidents
case,
about abortion.
temporarily allowing
Still?
emergency
Can we
abortions
fuck
to
off with
continue in
abortion
Idaho,
at a presidential debate? Should
despite
never
that
be in
state's
deal
there.
with this.
restrictive ban.
Should never be there.
Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned
Squid
the
says,
issue
how
of
long till they have to
abortion the
inject more
states.
uppers into Biden?
However,
And would you give them your
the
plugs
federal
number?
government still plays a role in whether or not women have access
Yeah,
to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions.
The Supreme Court just
As
ruled that
president, would
mifepristone
you
is
block
fine.
abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court.
The more
and they
syllables
happened to
Trump
vote
has
in
to say,
favor
the better
of
he says
killing
them.
Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about
See,
how
they're
many
cutting-
weeks
they're
and how
cutting
many
to
this,
Trump
and getting
only
into
because they don't
other
want to keep
things. But
Biden. He
every
is
legal
zoning out.
scholar
Look at him.
throughout the
Yeah.
world, the most respected,
Biden looks like a
wanted
lost
it brought
kitten.
back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it
Wow.
out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought.
Liberal.
Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He
I
said, we'll
support
put the
some
baby
post-birth
aside
abortions.
and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is
What
that
you've
the vast
done?
majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided.
No, they
Supported
didn't.
Roe.
No.
And
I had a
this
common law
idea that
professor
they're
that
all
mocked
against it is just
Roe.
ridiculous. And this is the guy who
They
says
said it
the
was
state should be able to have it.
precedental.
We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, have your and
Roe
have him
versus Wade has
decide
been the
on
most
what your
highly
circumstances are
contested
when you
decision in
need help.
Supreme Court history
The idea that
from
states
its
are able to do
inception.
this is a little like saying we're going
Ruth
to
Bader
send
Ginsburg
rights
made
back to
fun
the
of it.
states. Let each
Yeah.
state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in to
What
talk
the
about that.
hell?
But here's the deal:
Was
there's
that
a
an
lot of
abortion? Like a
young women
post-birth
being raped
abortion?
by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous.
Oh my
And they
God.
can do nothing about it, and they try to arrest
This
them.
is
on a
elder
complete
abuse.
line.
Thank you.
What the hell did
Yeah,
just
look,
got-
you see, they
Many
cut him
young
off. They
murdered
cut Biden
by the
off.
same people he allows to come across our border.
What was
We
he
have a border
talking
that's the
about?
most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Consider the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now
guess the
back
men
with
are
the states.
safe.
The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it.
Why was
Every
Biden
legal
talking about
scholar
illegal
wanted it
immigration?
that way.
We're
Bring up
on
the topic
abortion
of
again, right?
abortion, President Biden. 7 states.
She had to remind him.
I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions
We're on abortion?
on how far into a pregnancy
What
a
about-
woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I
Tough
support
question.
Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is
4,
between the woman and the
6.
doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation.
Nope.
Third time is
Wrong.
between the doctor, between the woman and the state.
He
The idea that
completely
the
got that wrong.
politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that
He
decision.
is trying to rally. He's doing a little bit better job. but
That's
he's
how it should
still
be run.
incoherent.
That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected,
But you
I'm
just
going to
decided
restore Roe v.
judges would
Wade.
make that decision
So
with
that
Roe
was
versus
elected.
Wade.
I want to restore
Take
Roe
the
v.
life
Wade.
of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month
Damn.
and kill the baby. Nobody
Yeah.
wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen.
He's
But we are
lying
not for
about-
late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Period,
Roe
period,
v.
period.
Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA
We should be up
Republicans
on
go
Rumble
on
now.
and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden,
They gotta
you
cut
have
up
a number of
Biden
migrants
should have
and
that
been
Trump.
illegally cross the southern
point.
border on your watch.
And at best, it was a
Overwhelming
draw,
border
but I think
states
Trump got
and
the better of it.
overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of
Trump's
that,
going
it made
Trump's
sure
gonna
that we
slaughter
are in
him
a
on this
situation
one.
where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure they were.
You separate
the
babies from
families were
life,
separated.
Joe.
That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally.
Nope.
It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get
We've
the
been having the
total
highest
ban
numbers ever.
on
ever.
the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we have the safest border in the history of our
It
country.
starts.
The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum,
Watch it,
terrorists.
Trump. You're
We're the
about to lose my
largest number
vote.
of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history.
just called
There's never
Brandon?
been anything like
He
it.
did.
People are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming
What an
up.
asshole.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person, come in and his administration, killed three American soldiers. Killed three
God,
You
American
cannot
soldiers.
vote for
minutes.
this
The only
man.
terrorist that's
You're
there.
voting for
I'm
a
not saying
corpse.
that no terrorist ever got
This is
to
elder
the-
abuse.
They're emptying their prisons. We're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry
Dorito
out,
says,
quote, the
"Prayers, Nick.
largest
Glad to see you."
domestic
Peace.
deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are
All of them
citizens,
on
and including those
time.
who have lived here for
They
decades?
have
And if
jobs.
so,
They are
how will you
breaking
do
the
it?
law.
Now, just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on
Huge.
everything, not just border,
Huge.
on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our
Very
citizens
creative.
at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval ratings.
He's going to
for
bring up
veterans
his son,
taking
I'll
care of
bet
the
you.
VA.
And
He has the
Buffett.
worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in. And
President
it's a very
Biden,
sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is
Keep
a lie.
pushing it.
Every single one.
Everything he says is a lie.
Veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them
Pass the
now
PACT
have
Act.
insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because
We
what
the rabble
happened,
says squid,
whether
Simper
it was
Devil.
Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now.
I'll get to all
And he
the super
opposed-
chats
his
eventually,
The
guys.
group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq.
He's going to bring his son up
Next
again.
one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
You're the loser.
President Trump?
You're the loser.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up.
Actually, this is
There's
wonderful that it
nobody
came up.
that's
It's
taken
terrific.
better
I was
care of our
waiting for this.
soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers story. He should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in America.
You have to apologize for the smell in the Oval Office.
And they now are in their family.
Smell like mothballs and red hots.
Is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the
The
top
VA
of the
is
foreign
equipping
policy.
soldiers to
I want
go
to
to
begin
war?
with Russia's war
Weird.
against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian
Gunnar says,
President
all I heard was
Vladimir
the first
Putin
question
says
was
he'll
on comedy.
only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers.
I swear they
You can double
skinned
those numbers,
Biden.
maybe
Someone's
triple
wearing
those
him as a
numbers.
suit.
He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded
Tell me about your
Ukraine.
dreams.
Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's
Joe Biden is very passionate about brain damage.
When the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember?
Does he know that Trump didn't invade Russia? I mean, didn't invade Ukraine?
Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable
You can't even
to
pronounce
you?
your own
Keeping
name,
the
Dana.
territory
They're
in
not
Ukraine.
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion.
Reese's peanut
That's
butter
a
cup.
lot of money. I
It's
don't
one
think there's
peanut butter
ever been
cup.
anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to
Person who loses the war is always a war
part of the
criminal.
Soviet Empire,
Yeah.
not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way,
really think
all that money we
Never
give
mind.
Ukraine and from
He
weapons
does.
we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Biden has rallied
President
a little
Biden,
bit. He's
you
not
put
quite as
forward a
incoherent as he was a few
proposal
minutes
to
ago.
resolve this conflict. But so far, Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what
Biden's like,
additional
"They are?"
leverage will you use
Why does he look
to
so
get Hamas
puzzled?
and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward.
And the G-string.
Endorsed the plan I put forward.
Endorsed
Which
the
has
plan I
3
put forward.
stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second
haven't
phase
agreed
is
to it.
ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the
Some would
weapons
say
need
they
and
work
when
very
need them.
well.
And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're 2 different things. Hamas cannot
Trump's got a
allow
smug
to
waggle
continue.
going.
We continue to
He
send
really
out
needs to. I think he needs to calm that
how
down.
we can get Hamas
I love the
like
guy,
we did
but
bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only
Well,
one
that's
that wants to keep
delicious.
going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a
Damn.
minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO.
Never
You
listen to
understand
yourself
NATO?
record.
He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps
I think
talking about.
making
Go ahead.
Biden angry
Putin go in,
may be
control
counterproductive.
Ukraine, and
because I
then
think it's
move on
helping
to
him
Poland and other
focus.
places. You see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking
I
about.
think Trump maybe
By the way, I
ought
got
to
50
wind
other
it down
nations
just a little
around the
bit and
world
just let
to
Biden
support
ramble.
Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an
World
independent
War I,
Palestinian state in order
the
to achieve
Franco-Prussian
peace in the
War.
region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now
Billions and
we're in the same
billions.
position. We're paying everybody's
Thank you.
bills.
Let's turn to the issue of
That's the whole
democracy. Former
point of
President
NATO.
Trump,
It's a
I want to ask you about January 6, 2021.
cost,
After you
shared
rallied your
benefit.
supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally
gonna bring
mandated
up January
counting of
6th.
electoral votes. As president, you swore an
Of
oath to,
course.
quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever.
Yep.
We had the lowest regulations ever. On
That's
January
exactly what I
6th,
said he ought to do.
all over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
Ooh,
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6,
it's like
2021,
piss off.
and worry that you'll do it again?
Well,
Read-
I didn't say that to anybody.
read the
I said
Constitution
peacefully
again.
and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say,
Filmmaker.
but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing
This
turned
is
it
true.
down, the mayor of D.C.
Mayor of DC, Trump
They
handed
turned it
over
down.
control
I
of
offered
the
10,000
National
because
Guard.
I could see.
Mayor of
I
DC
had
said, no, we don't
virtually
need it.
nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room
No,
off
he
the
didn't.
Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching. being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them.
A lot of them were.
They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no.
Yeah, the people who didn't enter the building and didn't hit anybody, they shouldn't be convicted of anything.
Scores of cases.
And this is something that Biden really should do better on, right?
This guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing.
Terribly off.
The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no.
Technically, he's not a convicted felon until the judge sentences him, right?
Capitol Hill and all those.
Just say an unjust conviction by an unjust system doesn't affect
the idea
me.
that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those
Your
people
political
are
cronies convicting me of a felony doesn't make it real.
The first two debates we had, first time.
Pretty sure he's prepared to pop that back.
Denounced the Proud Boys. He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now? We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have.
I want to respond. I want to respond about
you of 34 felonies last month. You said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon. Ouch. At a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden,
he could have answered that a little better, honestly, at the end. I did nothing wrong I didn't like. You should have said your political allies came after me with a political prosecution.
Outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong.
You did that. You literally did that, Joe.
No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three,
did. You just did it, Biden.
Think of all the civil penalties you have. How many?
That's exactly also what Alvin Bragg did.
For for molesting a woman in
They
public,
literally ran on the platform of "We're going to get
of
Trump."
having sex with a porn star on the night.
Oh, hit him with the
pregnant.
showers with his daughter. Hit him with
What are you
that.
talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a
She
case
was
that
really
was
a B
started
movie.
and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have
He did
said
a better
quote,
job on that.
Donald Trump and his MAGA
That's good.
Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will
I
be
didn't have
voting
sex with a porn
against
star. I
American
just peed
democracy?
on her.
The more they know about what he's done, yes, the more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of.
You mean the
issues he
stolen
has to
documents
face.
case?
I
Hey,
don't know what
Joe.
the juries will do, but I do know he has a
I
real
think
problem.
Trump's going to get him on that
So
one.
the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman
was not the
I spoke to
same.
the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides.
And he didn't say
What
even
American
Snopes has come out and
say
called that
Nazis
a lie.
coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people. This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things.
Joe, your party
know what they
supports
are.
Hamas.
Good things Hitler's done. That's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
What?
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
You know who should have run
President
from
Biden.
Charlottesville?
And debunked. It
Heather
happened.
Heyer.
All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought there
Biden,
were
the
good
only thing
people
running
coming
is
out of
your
that
sphincter.
forest,
Yeah.
carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea
We're now a little
he's
bit
talking
over
about
halfway
all
through
this
this.
being fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
How is he going to start that
Thank
creepy
you, President
ass
Biden. We're going to be
whispering
right
again?
back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Oh, God. I'm going to pull this out for now.
So what do you think?
I mean, Trump's walking all over him. Biden doesn't seem to know where he is. Seriously, his expressions are amazing. Like
Yeah.
everything freeze frame of. It's like Tucker Carlson has the "Are you shitting me" face when he's listening to someone where he's like,
Yeah, Tucker has a.
but his is like listening to someone. Biden's is waiting for his oatmeal. Like it's pretty bad.
I think Biden is doing better now than he was. I think he started out awful. He was completely zoned out. I think, and if I were Trump, I don't know that I would try to piss him off as much. I know Trump enjoys doing that, but honestly, I think the anger allows Biden to be more coherent.
Well, it took the pills a little bit to dissolve in the system.
That could be so too. They may have popped him right before the thing, and the meds are kicking in too. That's a good point. I might be wrong about that. I think Biden is doing okay. I think Trump is definitely more coherent. He's more impressive. But I think Biden is doing just barely good enough for the Democrats to not ditch him yet.
I mean, I don't know how, like, ignoring the substance of what he says.
Yeah.
The man looks like he doesn't have 4 years in him.
No,
certainly not 4 years of public life. Like, the presidency is an extremely stressful job, no matter who you are. Everybody goes in looking about 20 years older than comes out looking about 20 years older than they did when they went in.
Except Trump, interestingly.
Right.
enough.
Except Trump, he got maybe a little younger. But if Biden gets the same treatment again, I mean, he's going to look like the fucking crypt keeper.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already looks like they've got layer cakes of makeup on him to try and hide some of the lines. You can't do everything, but that's why it looks like he's wearing a skin suit. You can see it around his eye sockets primarily. It looks like something is sunken behind some sort of plastered on thing, and that's just endless makeup.
I discovered something. I can put people in timeouts in the chat.
you can, but you don't need to.
Can I?
I mean, unless you really like. I don't care if you do, as long as it's funny. Let me get a couple of these chats while we're on this break. Gunner says, all I heard the first question was on comedy. Uriah the House Right says, Drumpf 2024. This is manga country. GZF. Oh, look, two 80-year-olds arguing about the economy. This is literally my grandparents' retirement home every night of the week. We the Rabble says, bets on Biden. Where'd they go? Bets on Biden falling asleep in the next 20 minutes. That was a little bit ago. He survived. So bad bet if you made it. Amateur Ant says, hey, when's it my turn with your wife in April? Well, I don't know. You'd probably have to take a number or something. I'm write a check.
He gave you money to ask that question?
Yeah, they did. I didn't.
Okay. Well,
I guess. Debbie says, Ty, happy to see you being a real one for Nick. Nick sending aloha and prayers to you, your wife, and your kikis. Oh, the kids. Yes, in Hawaiian. Thank you. Thank you very much. The Squid, I don't see how Biden can fix taxes. I bet my plan is better than any bureaucrat could come up with. Get rid of all taxes and instate a 21% sales tax across the board and divide it 3 ways between Fed, state, and local. Get rid of all taxes instead of 21. Wasn't that the Herman Cain plan?
Yeah.
Roughly?
Yeah. Trump's got a plan too to base it all off of
President Biden.
tariffs.
While Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters
Pander
who
alert. Pander alert.
you haven't made more progress?
Didn't you just basically say there aren't very many of them?
Number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. And
that's not the question they asked you.
Segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice
trying to reason
Black
now.
families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past,
choice Black families have to make relative to childcare is what?
Childcare costs. I cut them in half. in half. We're
I
going to
got
make
nothing.
sure we provide for child care costs.
Why did black
Gotta
child
make
care
sure
costs get
because
cut in
when you
half?
provide
Wait,
those
what?
child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people get in the
But
job
you see what I'm
market.
saying?
So
He's less
Is this
we're
like
coherent
a-
when he's
done.
not angry.
Considerably more to
Is
be
this like
done.
a deep
But
absent
we've
black
done a
fathers
great deal
joke
so
he's
far,
doing?
and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left.
Well, you know, that corn
What do you
pop was a
say to
bad
all
dude.
voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example,
caused the
right,
inflation, you
idea
cadaver.
that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home, so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning.
Somebody in the chat
They
makes
faced
the observation that
decades of
Dana
nursing.
Bash is rattled.
And
I think the moderators are
and
appalled by how
volunteers,
badly
if
Biden
they
is
paid their
doing.
bills for 10 years,
What's he talking
their-
about
their
ballooning
student debt,
student loans?
all the
Student
rest
loans
is
weren't
forgiven
given
after
on
10 years.
balloon rates.
Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
He's just
Thank you,
gibbering.
President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He split inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back, 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was
COVID
no
kind of did
inflation
that.
at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again.
The Affordable Care Act
We find
is
ourselves in a
still
position
garbage,
where
bro.
the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and
I
making
don't
sure
think
people
gaslighting the American
No,
people is
they're
going to be a
making-
very effective
there's a lot
strategy.
going on. But in inflation,
He wants
he
to cut the
caused it
cops.
by his tremendous
He's not the only one.
malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis.
No, it isn't.
2023 was the hottest
No, it
year
isn't.
in recorded history, and
It's a
communities
manufactured
across
challenge.
the country
No,
are
it isn't.
confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying
Go
wildfires.
with the American people don't care about that. They care about
Rising sea levels.
inflation and talk about
Former
inflation.
President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers.
See,
He's
they
lost
keep cutting to
much
Trump
of the
because
black
they don't want to show
population
Biden looking
because
at
he's done a
slack
horrible
job
job for
witless.
black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air. And we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever.
The best H2O there is.
We were using
H2O.
all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the
Immaculate
stage.
water. We had immaculate
I don't know
water.
where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history.
Yeah, yeah.
We find ourselves, and
Sure
by the
did.
way,
That's
black
not a
colleges.
good thing.
I
No.
came up with
Constrained
50
economic
for
growth and drove
named
up inflation.
black
Well
universities
done,
and
Joe.
colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any.
Thought we were
work
talking
they
about
can
climate
do.
change. Now you're
You
talking about
just have
black
the money
Was
colleges.
he
not
about to say
able
black
produce
kids are
jobs
just
in
as
high
smart as
tech.
white kids?
We're in a situation where the idea that
He almost
he's
did.
claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment.
I said we had
the Paris
H2O.
Peace Accord, Climate
I
Accord.
think his
I
time's up,
immediately
too. I
joined
think
it.
you're letting him
Because
ramble
if
on.
it reached 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point where there's no way back, the only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
Interesting enough, Biden is coming off
Paris
far more
Accord was going to cost us
obnoxious.
$1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that
I don't know what
we,
that
in
has to
fact,
do with climate
we
change, but I'm
were
fine with it.
The only ones that
No, he's doing
We're not.
exactly what I
we're
thought
not
he ought to
members
do.
of the
Is
Paris
he just
Accord.
answers the
How
questions he
can we
wants
do
to answer.
anything we've not able to? the
Don't
United
swallow the
States
premise
people
of his
under
questions.
control. One of the largest polluters in the world. Number one, we're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have.
I think Joe
pollution
just
in
did a
half.
little bump
We
there.
have made
I think he did too.
significant progress.
Channel
We
Hunter.
continue to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to
You
deal
got a
with it,
problem,
just
I got a good
this-
program.
and we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world,
Okay, Biden's run over a minute.
cannot have to
They're
pay.
letting him.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle
By
just
the
to make
way.
ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times.
I don't recall Trump ever saying he would cut Social Security and Medicare because he knows where his voting base is.
That's a new thing they've been flogging the last couple of days.
Is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors.
Biden's poll numbers among older Americans are devastatingly
by the way,
bad for him. So
American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing allows them to have that insurance.
That wasn't true at all.
The fact
that wasn't
that
true.
They, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for Black
that 40 million figure is such a fake statistic.
The amount of money for Pell Grants.
I remember it included illegal immigrants.
Yeah,
I think it was 17 million. I think was the number, and they were mostly people that were just between jobs. They weren't.
He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen him. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he said he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country. And
he used illegal aliens.
There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureats he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureats, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession.
Was Krugman one of them?
Inflation is going to increase and go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted for him the worst president in the history of the United States.
159.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of
scholars?
childcare, which many American families struggle
like
to
basket
afford.
weaving,
President
but
Trump,
gayer.
both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of childcare in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of childcare for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make childcare more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He was the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election,
Biden
our
looks like
country
he's reading
doesn't have a
something
chance, not even a chance.
Like, where's he looking?
Of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody.
I mean, no one besides everyone.
And the entire premise that Russia does,
we're talking about worst
like that's your premise from earlier, is that Russia will be after us eventually because they think we're weak.
159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number.
Logic is not Joe's strong suit.
They had meetings and they voted. Who's the worst president in American history? One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history.
A bunch of witless college professors said they don't like Trump. Gosh, that's
you
shocking.
can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever
academia
created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us.
160 scholars say this.
He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times.
Well, but our scholars
he wants to raise everybody's taxes
Rotten Tomatoes
by 4
scores,
times.
baby.
He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is
get rid of Trump's tax cuts.
Everything coming in the country.
Do they have notes at the podium?
That's going to cost the average American.
They're not supposed to, they've got pen and paper, but they're not supposed to have notes.
Because they're going to have to pay the difference.
But I think it's very obvious that CNN probably
and all the things
questions Biden.
Number two,
why would you think
he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally.
Now the middle class got devastated by the inflation.
Deficit of any president in American history. Number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans.
Have you noticed they've had to cut Biden off
priority in your first term?
Trump's been very
the
disciplined on
opioid
this time.
crisis, and for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made,
it's not really a
more than
president's job
100,000
to
Americans
deal
are
with
dying
the
from overdoses
opioid
every
crisis,
year,
but-
primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice
I'm
he never
disappointed we haven't heard Biden
because
crime
we bring in
syndicate
so
yet.
much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were
Those dogs
getting
are bullshit.
very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make
Hunter
sure we
was
use
using
the
them.
machinery
Yeah.
to protect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country
Close
in
the
Asia
fucking
in terms of
border, Joe.
precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. I should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns.
That was a missed
that we
opportunity.
have
Trump
about
should not have
each of
gone
you.
down that rat hole. in
President
my opinion.
Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the
What
world
if he says he would be
well
41?
into your 80s?
No, I'd be 41.
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way,
I
we
love he
brought
takes
off a lot of
credit for
people.
these new
Well,
jobs that
the
came
whole
after
idea
COVID.
of computer chips.
Yeah.
We used to have 40% of the market. We
Well, I
invented,
don't think gaslighting the American
we
people is
lost
going to
it
be effective.
because
They
he
can
was
they
sending
can
people
say that if they want
to
to, but
find the
nobody's going to
cheapest
buy it.
jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs they call that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before.
You literally worked for one
the
that
end of
did.
the world. Like, name
Yeah.
a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to.
I
screw
love
around
letters.
with
They're
us.
terrific. They're wonderful.
Thank
They're
you.
sensual.
Former President
magnificent.
Trump, to follow up, you would be 82
Sweaty
at the
sometimes.
end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public.
I actually
He
wrote
took none.
new
I'd like to
tests
see
that
him
were
take
better
one,
than the
just
old
one,
tests.
a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank
Never
you.
seen a score this
President
high.
Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds.
20,
Well,
35
you
pounds?
said 6'4", 200.
5 pounds.
Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice
This
president.
clown
We know you got a
can't-
handicap.
6.
He can't even walk onto a
And
plane
by
without
the way,
falling.
I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. That he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap. 8. You know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
President Trump, we're
Let's not act like children.
a specific concern that voters have about you.
Why would
Will you
Biden
pledge
engage
tonight
that? That was just
That once
obvious
all
bait.
Biden is an
challenges have been
egotistical
exhausted,
shithead.
that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said,
He
it
brought
was
it
her
up.
responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something.
I would
wish he
hit, I
was
would
a
hit him
great
on his golf
president,
game
because
constantly.
I wouldn't be here right now.
He's
I'd be
sensitive about
at one of
that.
my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president then I'm going to make
I
America
had to
great
come
again.
back.
We're going to make America great again. We're a failing
again.
nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
Way farther than he drives a
You want a
golf
World
ball.
War III. Let him
That's what he
follow
should have
and
been
win, and
doing.
let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, and required response.
Ukraine's not
The
part
idea,
of NATO. You
The idea.
cadaver.
I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia,
Russia.
they took a lot of land from
China.
Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it.
He just
Not going to
spoke.
play
Bob
games
told
with me. He knew
himself.
that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games.
Bob
He took
done.
nothing from me.
Bob done.
But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this with? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country.
Man, he went to
Not
the
one
courts.
single court in America said any of your claims had any merit,
Actually, they
state or
dropped him
local.
on
They
standing
never-
grounds
they-
and
But
latches.
you continue to provoke this
No
lie.
court ever
Somehow there's
reached
all
the,
this
by the merits.
misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what,
I mean, there's
I doubt
evidence
whether
of it.
you'll
You just
accept
may
it
not
because you're such a
agree with
whiner.
it.
The
You may not
idea
think
if
it's
you lose
sufficient,
again,
but
you
there is
accept anything,
evidence.
you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right
You
back.
know what snapped last time
with
was
more
a tree
from the
branch you hit on
CNN
that last
presidential
golf
debate,
chip.
live from Georgia.
How long is this thing?
I think we're at closing statements coming up, and Trump
Yeah,
speaks last.
I thought it was going to be an hour, and it's a little longer. I mean, I'm fine. Obviously, I don't like. I'm not like, God, I don't want to leave. No, but it's like I thought it was just going to be shorter.
So how do you think Biden's doing?
I don't think he's doing well. I really don't. He's he got flustered really easily on the golf thing, and he looked like Trump. Trump can look childish, but Trump ends up saying, let's not look like children. And but Trump is going to look childish. You expect it. That's kind of what he does. And some people would say childish. Others would say kind of like normal, like a normal human, not presidential. But you expect it from Trump. Biden's job is to stay above it and to make his zingers be like actual bombs of really solid political clout coming from a refined place. And they don't work for him at all.
I agree with you. I think Biden has done well enough that the media will try to somehow flog this into at least a break even. Here's the thing. If the media comes out and says it was basically an even thing, then Trump mopped the floor with him. Okay?
Yeah. Excuse me. Apparently there's I don't know. This is from chat, so take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But apparently there's the liberal side of Twitter is already screaming at CNN for rigging the election or rigging the debate
in favor of Trump
to try and become the new Fox News.
You know what? Now I got to say, I was surprised. I fully expected Tapper and Bash to put their finger on the scale, and they didn't. Now, some of that was Trump simply not swallowing their premise. They would ask a loaded question, and Trump would go, well, let's talk about what the American people really care about. I was telling somebody today that I said, if I were Trump, every time they ask some bullshit question about January 6th, I'd say, American people don't care about that. What they care about is the fact they're paying twice as much for food. He did that kind of thing over and over. And he did a good job of not swallowing the premise. There's only one time where I got aggravated with him for going down the rat hole a little bit on something. I've already forgotten what it was.
It wasn't that big of a deal. And
then, not in a 90-minute debate.
That's the annoying thing about like the debate format is someone will get, because you have, you talk and then you respond. And it's like, they'll say something right at the end. It's like, I got to respond to that. And they can get really wrapped up in it. I got a chat from Texas Red here who says, if Biden legit destroyed Social Security, I might actually vote for the guy. Fuck Social Security.
Well, what they're doing is that's a classic Democrat strategy. When you look at the polling, Biden is way behind with older Americans, way behind, and so they're trotting that old chestnut out again, to try to scare old people. I don't think it's going to work.
I'm really weirded out about this whole like half price childcare for blacks. I'm like,
pretty sure that's unconstitutional.
Reduce the cost of was it childcare as in like daycare, or were they talking about the cost of raising a child? It was kind of weird. We want half price for blacks.
I think it was daycare.
But even so, that's awkward too.
To deliver closing statements as predetermined by a
It's unfortunate they won't say that is not something the president can really affect.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair.
He's like a verbal Picasso.
Ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not.
Yes, they will if the tax cuts are allowed to.
But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And
Biden's exact words were, there was no inflation whenever I took office.
More by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for the ability
this is a bad look.
To be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior.
Boy, if only that mattered in the
along
context
with
of a
happening
$50
now,
trillion
and everybody in
budget
America
over 10
wants to
years.
get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something
People
about
aren't
what we're
paying
doing
taxes,
on
therefore
lead
tax
pipes
credits
and
don't
all
do
the
them any
things that
good.
are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to
The
bring
lower
down
income
inflation
people.
and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Oh, nail it, please.
Like so many
'Cause that was bad.
politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in.
Bring it
Our
home.
military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or
I wish
Hezbollah.
you'd tie that
No
together
money
with oil
whatsoever.
prices and point
Again,
out that
Ukraine
low
should have
oil
never
prices
happened.
crippled Iran.
He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get, when you're terminally ill, now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump,
Yeah.
President Biden. Stay
I
with
thought that
us
was effective
because we
enough.
have full analysis of this debate.
Oh,
Anderson
God.
Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts
Oh,
now on CNN.
okay. Nope. I'm not going to watch full analysis by Anderson Cooper
Oh, dear God, no.
or anyone else.
Uh-uh.
Well, there we go,
So,
man. That
what do
was,
you think?
I mean, I don't really know the purpose of these debates. This is interesting. They mentioned before the debate, this is the first time ever a former president is debating a current president, because it's only like really kind of happened once in the past that we have that sort of scenario. But they didn't do the debates. They weren't televised. I wonder if they actually had a debate at some point. Like you do kind of wonder if that happened, but I'm not sure how they.
We had debates back in the old days. You know, there was the Lincoln Douglas debates and that kind of stuff. I mean, of course, Andrew Jackson probably would have challenged his opponent to a duel.
It would have been good. But they pointed that out. And I think that the interesting part of the unique nature of this debate is that no one needs to know who these two are. Like, we know who they are.
Yeah.
We had 4 years as Trump. We've had almost 4 years of Biden. So, and we have Biden as vice president, and a lot of his policies kind of mirror the Obama era policies, just with a little bit of, 12 years of advancement, I guess, down the road of Americans sort of acclimating to liberalism. So I'm not sure what the purpose of the debate is. And at the end of the day, we know who these guys are. And so in that light, it was fun to get some zingers out there. It's good to see the personality. I don't really care much for the substance of what either of them said, because you can judge them based on the quality of their presidencies. You can just decide, I liked it better then or now.
That's Biden's problem, right? Is that Trump can point to a very impressive record on economics, and you can screech all you want to about how it all ended, but everybody alive knows that COVID was a thing, and you can't really blame Trump for COVID. Uh, you can try, but
Well, I mean, yeah, they can certainly give that a shot.
Yeah. Gaslighting the American people on economics not going to work for the Democrats, I don't think, because that's just a reality that people experience every single day.
I mean, that's the main thing. You can just decide if you liked life better now under Biden or you liked life better under Trump.
I think Trump missed an opportunity by making that exact argument. Were you better off during my presidency or his presidency? Is that simple?
Because at the end of the day, words on a debate stage are words. There are too many variables for any president to guarantee any result. They can always put forward policy motivations. They can put forward ideas of what they want to do, and that's fine and dandy. But what's going to happen is what's going to happen. We've seen both of them perform. You get to judge on that.
Apparently, the Twitterverse, I checked in just briefly. So apparently, the Democrats are saying that Biden had a cold, and that's why he was not doing so well. So
of course,
excuses are already beginning.
I think he had a glioblastoma, highly advanced.
So I want to make one thing clear. I think Trump mopped the floor with Biden. Okay, but I'm grading Trump on by a much higher standard than I am Biden, because Biden voters are idiots. and I'm trying, I was really going to try to see this if I were a Democrat voter. I mean, of course, that means I have obviously disconnect a big chunk of my brain. But if I was a Democrat voter, what would I think about Biden's performance? I'd have a real hard time saying that Biden mopped the floor with Trump with a straight face. I mean,
that's where I was kind of going with the point of this debate for me, or what I pull out of it is looking at these two men. One of them looks like he has the vitality to sustain a 4-year presidency, and the other one just frankly doesn't. I mean, I don't know how Biden is expected to meet with another head of state and have an important conversation that matters at the end of the day. I don't know how Biden is expected to stay on point. We all hear about, the shadow government or whoever, whatever hands are pulling the strings on the marionettes, but that's always talked about as if it's not like if it's a secret.
Right.
With Biden, you have to accept it as true to accept his presidency, because
nobody, Republican or Democrat, should want that system.
Right. If we accept that someone has to be pulling Biden's strings for his presidency to exist, I don't want that. And if we look at it and say, no, he's pulling his own strings, and we go, this man can't talk his way out of a McDonald's order.
Mm-hmm.
Which can be difficult. I mean, to be fair.
True. But I don't think Biden was bad enough that there's going to be any kind of real impetus behind getting rid of him. I don't believe they could get rid of him anyway. I think that time is long past. I said this, 9 months ago when everybody was going, oh, they're going to get rid of Biden. They can't. They couldn't then, and they can't now. Number one, you've got Harris as the alternative, but even more important than that, Dr. Jill Biden is not going to let him.
Right.
She's not going to let Biden voluntarily step down, so he'd have to be removed. And then you'd also have to find a way to remove, knee pads Harris. And for what? You're going to put the governor hairdo, a white male. So you're going to remove a black female so that you can replace her with a white male. Those optics aren't going to be real positive. So I think the Democrats are stuck with Biden. There was a small chance that if he had a complete just meltdown, brain freeze, whatever, falling out type thing, they could have done it. But they would not have let this go forward if they thought that was going to happen.
We had a huge super chat come in from Dagon3. Says, hey, Nick, good to see you. Wish you well. Hey, thanks, man. Really appreciate that. Thank you a bunch of for that support.
Dagon.
Here's a question for you. Robert Barnes was postulating that a big win for Joe Biden was somehow keeping Robert Kennedy off the debate stage. Do you agree with that assessment?
Nah. I think the polling that I've seen shows that Kennedy doesn't have a material impact on the election. I mean, Trump's margin is roughly the same, depending on, there's some variation. I think there's a lunatic fringe of the Democratic Party that'll vote for Kennedy. There are a few never Trumpers that might flirt with Kennedy, but I mean, Biden can't possibly like the fact that he's got a challenger, but at the same time, they're at a point now in the polling where they're running, a three-way race versus a two-way race, and Trump's ahead in both of those polling things.
Yeah, I saw right before the stream that there was that of the 7 battleground states that are expected to decide the election, Trump's ahead in 6 of them or something. Or it's like 5 of the 6 or 6 of the 7. It's like that's really bodes poorly for Biden. I don't know if
it's down to this, Nick. It's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Trump's got to win one of those 3 states to take it, or he's got to win a far less likely state like Virginia or Minnesota or whatever.
Yeah, well, he's not going to win here because Minnesota is pure communism.
And he's not going to win in Virginia because Virginia is pure communism that works for the government.
Right.
I mean, Youngkin did an amazing job flipping that state, but I mean, anything's, put it this way, anything's possible. Now, one of the interesting things I read was there's a poll coming out of Iowa that's got Trump like 17 points ahead, and apparently it's considered to be a pretty good polling outfit. And I've heard this from multiple different observers. There's no way that Trump takes Iowa by 17 points and loses Wisconsin because of the overlap, in attitude. So I think, CNN, honestly, I got to say this. I am surprised that the CNN moderators did not pull a what's her name? Who was the one that bailed Obama out with Romney? And Romney sat there like the slack jawed wussy that he is and let her do it. Candy Crowley. They didn't have their finger on. I think what they did was that the questions were loaded to disadvantage Trump, and Trump completely blocked that by simply not answering those questions.
Right.
I fully believe that they leaked the questions to Biden. Why would you think they wouldn't?
I don't think any of the questions were much of a surprise.
No, they shouldn't have been. That's the thing, right? And some of the questions were kind of harsh to Biden. I mean, they were fair questions. So, I wouldn't walk across the street to urinate on either one of those guys, those people that were on fire. But I got to say, I thought they did a pretty fair job as moderators.
Yeah, I didn't think the moderators were that bad. And that was another thing. I heard people talking about Trump kind of giving up some of his advantages in the debate by allowing them to do stuff like mute him during Biden's thing. But they actually unmuted him. They did unmute him one time when he wanted to step in. And I think the main thing with Trump and how he was running this debate was what you said. Look, you got 2 minutes. Ignore the question. Like, if you don't like the question, just ignore it. Steamroll it, because Trump is excellent at steamrolling a conversation. Because what he does is he's somehow, it doesn't make sense, because when you watch him, you're like, why do people like this guy? But
he has charisma.
He does. And he's
got charisma in spades.
He can tell a story really well, really quickly. And that just goes ahead and makes the conversation happen and interesting. And nobody cares about the question, because at the end of the day, no one gives a shit what CNN wants Trump or Biden to talk about.
Right.
They really don't.
Right.
It's like, these are just T-balls. They tee them up, and then these guys are supposed to come and take a swing. And, if you don't want it on the tee, just grab it, turn around, throw it in the air, and hit it across the other fence.
It would be interesting to maybe look at this debate again with the volume turned off, just to get the visual impact. I think Trump wins. I think Trump wins that one hand down. Yeah, Biden looked. I think so I think you're right. I think that his drugs were set up to where they dosed him immediately before he walked on stage. And so, because they want him to finish at least competently. Had they not done that, and he petered and he ended it the way he started, it would have been a real disaster, because he was a space cadet for the first 20-25 minutes.
Oh, he had a
Biden
couple
was-
of these moments where he just went,
Yeah. He
like
was,
his
I mean,
batteries were recharging or something. And it
no,
was
I just think
awkward.
they popped him right before he went in, and it took about 30 minutes for everything to take effect. I do think that when he got angry, it did help him focus his brain a little bit. And I think that maybe some of the digs that Trump were doing were counterproductive in that regard. I always said this format was not going to be the big advantage for Biden that they thought it was. Let Biden ramble on for 2 solid minutes on anything.
Oh,
And-
he couldn't stay on topic at all. It was
How many
actually
times do they
amazing.
say you've got 80 seconds? Do you want to say
We've
more?
got 83 seconds left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about
Uh,
something else. This is about black families having food on the table with inflation. Inflated food is
Yeah.
very bad for black families. It's like, wait, sir, we're talking about climate change. That was the one that really got me because the question was about climate change. And all of a sudden
And
he's
he
talking
goes
about
off on
historically
just-
black universities. It's like, because they don't have the same contributions.
Same labs. Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Are you saying their labs are running on like old 60s refrigerators with like CFCs dumping out, like killing eagles or something? What is happening here? It was so weird.
Yeah. I think if the Democrats were kind of vaguely hoping that Biden would have such a bad showing that he would somehow voluntarily step down, that didn't happen.
No.
And I think the far left is going to talk them. I mean, these people are delusional anyway, so of course they're going to convince themselves somehow that Biden mopped the floor with Trump. But the persuadable middle, I can't see anybody looking at that debate going, yeah, Biden, Biden brought it to Trump. I think Trump very definitely was more cogent. He was more disciplined in his answers. He did go down the occasional rat hole, but what I was impressed by is they never cut him off that I saw. He had the time thing down. I mean,
Yeah.
very disciplined. They cut Biden off multiple times, although I'm not sure some of the times they didn't cut him off just to keep him from.
I think they were rescuing him on a couple of those.
Yeah,
'cause
I do too.
He was going on. And to be charitable, because I'll be charitable to the moderators, the times where it looked like they were rescuing Biden, I could credibly attribute the rescue actually just being like he was so far off in the weeds that it was less of a rescue, more of like, we got to refocus this back to the actual debate because he's
Why we're here.
he's way out in left field. Let me grab some of these chats here as we have them. Gunner says 8 suspected ISIS-K terrorists living illegally in the U.S. got arrested literally this month. Dick Penisecki says Sleepy Joe is seething that Trump went off script. We the Rabble says, yeah, Biden unalived your own son with burn pits, you doof. Allegan News says the dumbfounded look on Joe's face is not a good look. We the Rabble, yeah, I got a VA COLA that cost of living adjustment that is outpaced by inflation. Thanks, Biden.
Yep.
That's the thing. Biden kept talking about veterans and how well they're treated. Like I don't
know a single veteran.
I don't know a veteran who's ever said that they've been treated well by any administration since I'm not putting this Democrat versus Republican, that they've ever said that the VA was competent or that the government was doing a good job taking care of vets. That said, I typically find that veterans tend to skew more Republican, the ones I've talked to.
I tend to know a lot of combat arm veterans, just that for whatever reason, that just seems to be the kind of veterans that I wind up making friendships with. And they are overwhelmingly in favor of Trump and not Biden. Now, what rear echelon guys might think, who knows? But I think that, the whole Biden, so Biden, the memes that are going to come out of this are going to be glorious because there's all kinds of body language memes that, can come out of it. Biden lied numerous times. The RNC ought to already have that ad cut showing he lied about this, he lied about that, he lied about that, he lied about that, and just hammer the guy on that. I didn't catch Trump in a lot of exaggeration. There was some hyperbole, just the we've got beautiful H2O.
We had clear, wonderful water. We had
Oh,
H2O.
I did think that was a brilliant response, though, to the whole environmentalist question, because that was a setup, that was a softball pitch for Biden,
Yeah.
you know. And I thought it was brilliant when he said, I want the purest water possible and the cleanest air possible. I mean, boom.
Well, that's the thing that was to bring this back to Supreme Court cases. That's Sierra Club versus Bush, which is, I think, 1993 case. It would have been against Bush Senior, but it was challenging the EPA because good old George, I think it was 93. If it wasn't 93, it was
Clinton
it
was elected in 92. So,
okay.
but,
No,
but
it must
may
have been. I think it was 2003 then. So it would have been Bush Jr., but they went after him for not using the EPA the way they wanted it used. The Sierra Club being notoriously liberal, and the president won. And it was basically like the mandate is for clean air and water. How we do it is actually up to the administration. So
it's an executive agency. I don't know if I told you, I gave a presentation to the business school here a few years back, and while Trump was president, it was about 2017, 18, something like that. And they had, it was a big, the business school had an open house day for people in the community to come in. So I gave a speech on communication skills, but they had a handler assigned to me, and she was an English professor, a very nice lady. But she said, I'm just curious about your opinion as a lawyer about something. And I said, sure. She said, well, it just seems like Trump has just declared war on the government. And I said, I don't really understand your question.
I don't understand the problem with this.
Well, yeah, that was part of it. And so she kind of expanded. I said, well, you got to understand, that would be like you're saying that I declared war on the family law department of my law firm. See, the government, these agencies are executive agencies. They work for the president. They're his employees. We don't have a fourth branch of government. We have, these
so the administrative branch is just the executive branch.
Yeah.
It's just that they're typically like it's difficult to get rid of them.
Yeah, they burrow in. But my point to her is that, they're executive agencies. The executive is kind of in charge. So if he doesn't think they're doing it right, that's within his purview as the executive, And she just, I blew her mind. She didn't argue with me or anything. Very nice lady. But see, we don't, that's something that keeps getting missed by a lot of people is that, these are executive. I think we should go back to the spoils system. I think it was a bad mistake for us to have a civil service bureaucracy that allow that to creep in, because now they think they are an independent agency.
Yeah, it's Congress has tried to create effectively through the administrative agencies mini Congresses that are unaccountable to the executive branch, which they operate under. They try to make their policy decisions sort of influenceable slightly by the executive, although they constrain them. They don't allow sort of executive veto to exist.
We're going to see the contours of the executive branch's ability to get control of these agencies.
Yeah, and that'll be really interesting to see, because there are certain actions of a president that should be effectively unfettered, and running an executive department that Congress has created. I mean, technically, if the president wants, he should be able to shut down everything, have one guy sitting at a desk with a typewriter. And he says that's the effective way we run the ATF. At least the guns wouldn't be going into Mexico to come back and shoot border agents then.
If I were Trump, the first thing I would do is zero every budget item out for conferences, for renovations, for remodeling. Congress can appoint the money, but the executive branch decides how to spend it and when to spend it and that type of thing. And I just, I would mandate that the air conditioning gets turned up to 80 degrees in the summertime and put it at 60 degrees in the wintertime. I mean, he can make those agencies very unpleasant places to actually work. And I suspect Trump will be very creative on that side, but
Yeah, it'll be fun. I want to see. I love seeing the intersection of branches of government. I want to see us figure out where these lines are drawn. And everybody thinks they'll claim that they know. It's like, oh, well, a president can do this, can't do this. And the reality is, I've said for years now, is on most of these questions, we really just don't know.
No,
Because when push comes to shove, someone they just go, oh, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll back down. It's like, no, we want the fight. We want the fight. And we want it resolved.
President Trump isn't going to be in a backing down kind of mood. He rightly recognizes, I think, that the big mistake of his presidency was to not go after the swamp. He allowed those bureaucrats to run roughshod over him. He trusted. He's an executive. Trump's a businessman, so he delegated. He hired people, put them in place, and he was ill served by the vast majority of them. Next time around, I think he's going to be a bit more of a micromanager. So we'll see. It could be very fun.
Let's see. We've got Grogu says Biden is the skinny Godskin in Elden Ring. Rick Nikita says, oh, what's going on here? Project Column. Okay, we're almost at Little League rules for the rest of this game. Trump has to take 5 shots and Biden gets IV'd to his cocktail. Timothy Brown. Thanks, Nick, for streaming the debates. I was going to watch it on Crowder's channel, but Rumble went down. I like the stream on your channel better. Steven talks too much. Hey, thanks. Coffee Addiction says, get good. Gunner says the Europeans have spent more than the U.S. actually. Trump is just wrong on this point. Well, they spent more because I told them to. I had to do it. They had to spend something. It's in their interests more than ours.
I think I was conflating the defense budgets. And very much the Europeans have basically freeloaded on us for decades on defense. They didn't come anywhere near close to the 2% that they were supposed to be spending, and Trump did hold their feet to the fire on that. He threatened to pull out of NATO. So I think that might have been an honest mistake on Trump's part. He was just saying as a generalization that they're spending money. I don't know that he handled the Ukraine quite as well as he could have. I would have made the point about being the corruptest country in Europe and about that weaponry probably ending up in terrorist marketplaces. And I would have hit Biden on his crime syndicate, on the Biden crime family, if I had been Trump too. How weird was that the thing that seemed to get under Biden's skin the most was when Trump said he could beat him at golf.
I would have started dropping golf jokes in every line.
I'm really surprised I think Trump was a lot more disciplined than he normally is. I think he had himself locked down hard. And the price of that was he wasn't quite as flexible and opportunistic as he normally would have been.
I mean, inflation has tripled under Biden, and the last triple Biden saw was actually on the 17th, the triple bogey, if you know what I mean. His handicap is really embarrassing, but what's worse than that? I would drop it everywhere.
I've seen you swing. I've seen you swing.
Just every time.
You can't hit it 50 yards.
My handicap is 8. It's 6. It was 6. It was 8. The problem is Biden probably used to have a pretty decent handicap, and it's probably gone really, really poorly for him as he gets older. And I bet it's pissing him off.
To an airplane without falling. I'm thinking he probably ain't got much of a drive.
Yeah, and it's like you probably did, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, these guys golf constantly. He's been in Congress for 763 years. Yeah. I mean, he's been in Congress since golf was invented. I'm sure he's got a good handicap.
I never thought I would see a greater example of the Dunning-Kruger effect than Obama. Okay. Because Obama was a moron. He was a bullshit artist and he was a moron. But he was filled with limitless self-regard. I stand corrected. Joe Biden is worse than Obama. Joe Biden is.
Oh, come on, Ty.
I don't think we'll ever see a greater example of that.
Obama's like, well, at least I didn't want the gays to marry at the start.
Yeah. I mean.
I like blacks even less than Joe does.
Yeah, I mean. But I mean, really, Obama was a moron. All you had to do was actually listen to the guy, and you go, he's just a bullshit artist. He didn't actually know what he's talking about. Um, but he had this limitless self regard, and I thought, okay, that we're not going to see that much arrogance again. Boy, I was wrong. Because Biden is even a bigger dumbass than Obama and actually has more self regard.
I love
You know,
how Rush always described Biden. Look, he's the dumbest person in any room he's in. Least qualified guy in every room. But it was
well, and
it was an interesting
consistently
thing.
wrong.
Right. It was such an interesting thing because that was actually kind of how Obama ran. Like that was his selling point. He's like, no, I put together good teams, which he didn't do, but that was what he would say. It's like, well, I put together teams of great people. And so Rush was like, just giving him that. It's like, yeah, you're the least qualified guy in every room you walk into. Why would we want this guy anywhere? Mr. Armageddon says, hey, Nick and Ty, even on tax dollar performance enhancers, Biden is barely keeping up. He looks scared or lost. Well,
Yeah.
they probably switched his pre-debate IV with his post-debate IV. He got the downers at the start, and now he's gonna go home and he's just gonna have to jackhammer Jill into the ground because he's all like,
Oh, I could have gone my whole life for that image.
sorry, I still exist in here somewhere.
Yeah, Biden is like Beavis when he turns into the great Cornholio. It's like, I am the great Biden Holio.
Johnny Badman says the Trump campaign sent me a text from Trump. I was right about everything. Biden obliterated. I won. I still love Trump's hand movements. Anybody who wants to do public speaking really needs to study how he handles that, because
Trump is a gifted communicator. He really is.
Well, the thing is, you always hear some jackass talk about like the power triangle and the hand movements and how you do them. And you're always like, that sounds like it looks stupid. But then you watch Trump do it so effectively all the time. It's like, you need to understand this is why he sells so well. He's a salesman. He's been a salesman for so long, and he just has it down. Look, this guy over here, he's got a beard. His microphone, not quite as good as mine. He doesn't sound as clear and crystal. What we want is high quality water. He's just talking about getting water. Oh, where's he going to get water? Russia? I don't know. China, Indochina, some sort of place. They're not paying for water. We're bringing Mexican water in here across the border on the backs of poor children. I'm going to bring you good, clean water straight out of our own lakes, our own reservoirs. We're sitting on top of tons of it. We're overlooking massive opportunities. We could be making billions and trillions of dollars just selling our own water. Why are we getting water from other countries? Why are we even doing that? That's because Joe Biden, this guy over here, Mr. Tybeard, he's trying to bring water in from all sorts. Have you ever even heard of Honduran water? They can't spell water down there. It's like, how do you do that? Just by a finger point? He just made some.
Well, that's
okay. I'm with it.
I don't know if I ever told you the story, but when I became a Trump supporter, I was a Ted Cruz fan, and
me too.
And I was like, Donald Trump, he's just famous for being famous. I never watched him on TV or anything, And my mother had cancer, and she had chemotherapy. And the day she takes chemo, that night is the last good night she's going to have for a while. And she and my aunt were big. My wife, all the women in my family were big Trump people. So I went over to see my mom after the chemo, and she said, "Well, Trump's going to be on TV. We're going to watch him." And I'm like, "Oh, goody, that'll be fun." But your mother's dying of cancer. You can't really say, "Mom, I don't want to do that." So you kind of have to suck it up. So I said, "Great, well, listen to this blowhard." Anyway, and he was in Alabama giving a speech to a large crowd, mostly blue collar people, and he sat there with no teleprompter, no notes that I could see, and just talked to those people for like an hour. Just talked to them and communicated. And when it was over, my mother goes, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "I think we just saw the next president of the United States." And I went home and told my wife that too. And she was like, "Wow, what changed your mind?" I said, he was talking to those people, and he was genuine, and they were eating it up. The man is an amazing communicator. I had no idea. I just didn't know that much about him. I, seen his name and, that kind of thing. And yeah, he's anybody that underestimates his ability to communicate with people is a fool. He's very, very good at that.
Yeah, and everyone should take notes, because it's not an orthodox communication style, but that's the point. He's a marginal individual in being excellent at it, so you should learn from people who are excellent. Let's
There's
see.
an old saying that the true masters know when to break the rules.
Right.
You know, one of Robert E. Lee's greatest Civil War campaigns, he split his forces in the face of the enemy, which you never do. Well, if you're Robert E. Lee, you know, you can do it and get away with it. So
Blaine 20 says, "Good luck giving it to the local government. Hawk Tua, spit on that thing." Are you familiar with Hawk Tua?
I am embarrassed to say that yes, I am.
Excellent. We don't have to cover it then.
I think that young woman needs to be, if nothing else, thanked for wiping pride memes off of the internet.
I think she's great. Dread Clown says, "Has Biden finished a sentence yet? It's like a stream of hyphens and commas." Yanan says, "Oh, damn." Says, "Does Ty Beard have any advice for Trump so that he doesn't lose against Biden like Ty lost against Monica Rial and Jamie Markey, costing Vic hundreds of thousands of dollars?"
How much money did that asshat give you to make that comment?
$1.
Wow. $1's a dollar.
$1's a dollar.
Yep.
Just ask anyone else sucking dick behind an Arby's. Cindy Lou Hoot says, "And by the way, malarkey." Last of Yahoo says, "Oi, Chief, good show so far. I think when Trump started reserved and more poised, he was letting Biden mumble through. I don't think Trump is pointed or sharp enough to really exploit Biden's flaws. Ty, good to see you."
Yeah, thank you. I don't. Trump's Trump. I think he did choke down his desire to go for the jugular. I really do. I think he was a lot less. I'm going to use the word vicious. I don't mean it quite that badly, but I think he was a lot less aggressive. But I think it was the better play, because the media was geared up to make. They were geared up. They already had the articles written about how mean and vicious and terrible he was. Biden was actually far more obnoxious and pissy to Trump. Biden spent a lot more time talking to Trump. It wasn't until the very last part of the debate that Trump even actually said anything to Biden. He directed all his comments to the moderators. So
yeah. Well, I think it's a big deal that this is the first debate.
Mm-hmm.
You dip your toes in. He's going to set it. He's going to set the pace and get people watching. Because if he comes out just full assault in this first debate, he's going to shut people out. But if he draws them in with some serious talk about the economy and focuses like you were saying earlier, this is what it was unto me. This is what it was unto you. Mine's better. Yours is worse. It's obvious. Anybody with a checkbook knows it. If you balance the checkbook, but of course you're taking that out of education, aren't you? If he just does that and focuses on, are you better then or better now? He's going to get people to the table going, you know what? Like, it really does suck going to the grocery store and paying $400 when I used to spend $150.
I do think he could have done a better job of that, but I think he did fine. So
yeah, but I'm saying that, like, people who wanted him to come out swinging for the fences in this first debate, he's got to get people, if he wants to get a message across, and if he wants to do that to Biden, what he needs to do is get people to the debates first. And if he did that in the first debate,
this is Trump's best opportunity to get to people that are still persuadable, but are not yet actually going to vote for him. You know,
right?
Because and to erode just a few more Biden supporters. I mean, Trump right now is polling ridiculously well by Republican standards with African Americans. Now, I'll believe it when I see it. You know, that population just tends to vote grossly overwhelmingly for Democrats every single time. But if you believe the polls, and the polls are, I mean, it's not just one poll, right? These are multiple polls across the board that are suggesting his support among African-American men may be as high as 30% versus 5% 3 years ago. I think Trump may have persuaded a few more traditional Democrats to and that was one of Reagan's secrets. Reagan got a lot of Democrats who just crossed over the aisle and voted for him, didn't make a big deal about it, probably didn't even admit they did it.
Reagan was a Democrat, movie star,
Yeah.
became a Republican president. Trump was a Democrat, television star,
Yeah.
became a Republican president. Because
No.
frankly,
Yeah.
what happened? Because
Yeah.
frankly, what happened was the Democrats went off the rails, and they left the conservative Democrats behind.
Yeah.
And they've done it again. And Trump was there to pick up the pieces and move some populist topics along with some Republican talking points, like, hey, maybe lower taxes, like maybe just that, like maybe we'll talk about
Yeah.
lower taxes.
Well, that's the thing that you got to understand about Trump is that Trump is a patriot and he's a populist, and he's a genuine populist. He really cares about working class people because his whole business experience, construction, real estate, that kind of stuff. He's worked with people in trades. He's worked with blue collar people his whole life, and he has regard for them. He doesn't look down on them. They're not icky to him the way they are to precious people, Republican or Democrat.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why the establishment GOP has been so conflicted about Trump, mainly because they're precious assholes, but also because they don't trust him. He's not the Chamber of Commerce Republican, which I personally
Thank
am
God.
fine with. Thank God. Yeah. Because establishment Republicans basically ceded this country to Barack Obama.
Yeah.
There has never been a more winnable election than Obama's first election. But we somehow managed to run 2 times against that clown. The absolute most beatable opponents possible. John McCain, who we nearly threw out of the party 10 years earlier and should have, and Mitt Romney, who was a Democrat. Mitt Romney, the only Republican we could find who had actually tried to implement a version of Obamacare in his state in a year when opposition to Obamacare unified the Republican Party. And we can't figure out why we lost that election.
And they're like,
McCain,
and Obama's like, yeah, actually, I modeled it off of him.
Yeah. I mean, boom.
Well, and I thought Romney, if he hadn't already, he lost the election in the third debate when he basically, on foreign policy, which was where Romney was supposed to be stronger than Obama, he said, actually, he's right, and I agree with him. It was like,
well, he pushed out
just
and let Candy Crowley bully him too, which was a bad look. When you're up against a she-male like Obama, okay, and you let Candy Crowley bully you in the debate, I mean,
yeah.
The thing that drives me over the rails with Never Trumpers is I voted for both of those jackasses. I knew exactly what they were, and I voted for them because as an adult, I chose the best option available. I didn't take my toys home and say, well, they're not real conservatives, therefore I'm not going to vote for them, or I'm going to vote for Obama. And Never Trumpers, they want to take their toys home and get Biden elected because they don't like Trump. But I mean, but those were establishment GOP figures. Same thing happened in Clinton could have gotten. Clinton was eminently beatable both times. George H.W. Bush didn't really try that hard, and Bob Dole, I don't know what the hell was wrong with him.
Bob Dole doesn't like this election.
Crazy thing was, when the election's over, he goes on. He makes a national television tour, and he's funny. He's engaged. He's articulate. I'm going, where was this guy?
Yeah.
Dole actually had a very wicked sense of humor. Very, very, but that wasn't the guy that ran. So the establishment GOP has done nothing but lose elections for us.
They're good at it.
They
don't want to win. It's so you'll probably never do it, but there was a show called Blue Mountain State, which is on Spike TV, I think, and it was this sort of pantomime look at the college football system. It's very raunchy comedy, very funny, but very like, college age, high testosterone comedy. But the main character is the second string quarterback, and he does not want to be first string. He's second string quarterback at like the most, like one of the highest championship winning colleges in the country. And he's like, he wants to be there because all he does is, drink, drugs, and women. Yeah, and he's like, this is the greatest thing ever. I don't want to be first string, because then he had to try. And it's like, that's the Republican
run over by defensive linemen.
That's the Republican Party. As long as I've been alive, they've got, except for like in 2010 with the Tea Party, and that was of course bucking the establishment Republican Party. Yeah. They have no drive to win. They just try to not cede some ground, but in the end, they of course cede all of it.
Right. Well, yeah. It's like running the prevent defense in the first quarter of a football game. Guess what? You're not going to win that game. We had a quarterback in Dallas in the early 90s who was exactly that guy. Okay. He was popular on the team. He was a great leader, man. He held the clipboard. He was always getting the players fired up. He was a great second guy for Troy Aikman. Troy's Troy Aikman, and his name was Babe Laufenberg, and Laufenberg was great. I mean, he's always good for a line on the thing. And then Aikman goes down, and they put him out there, and he got killed. And it was like the third team he had been to where he was the greatest backup quarterback in the world until he actually had to take the field. He later went on to be a very talented sportscaster, very, very funny guy. But but the GOP, they're, and I've said this for years too. We're still in the middle of a battle between the elitists and the non-elitists. And that's not. There are still a number of people on our side that are precious people. They're the elitists, and they don't
That's
really
me right there.
They don't really like those people, those dirty people. Those dirty people who like the plumbers and the people who work on your roof and stuff. They don't like that, and that's why they hate Trump.
Yeah,
because
I like those people. I hire those people. They build my buildings.
Well,
D What gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much. Alligan News says Joe is done. After this, he will get changed out. Squid says 10 doll hairs, says the next Medicare commercial is for the next big invention, is for ass catheters for when those prunes are too effective. Gross. Metaphysical Enlightenment says, hey, Nick, how are your kids doing? Just kidding. There's no way you could even know because they're in CPS custody. Oh, that was precious. Thank you. Gunner says, have the best H2O numbers. That's 20 H's.
How sad and pathetic is somebody's life that they spend money and time to take a pot shot like that.
I don't know.
Everybody,
that's the way of entertainment. Like
to that person, I have one thing to say. Everybody hates you. No one will shed a tear when you die. Okay. You are utterly without friends and without anyone.
Damn.
I mean, I would get angry at you, but I don't like to beat up retards. Golly.
Marshall Audis sent a chat and then with no message, and then when he followed up with a message, says, I swear Biden's about to ask for sugar in water. We the rabble, the only reason there's no audience is because they'd spontaneously break into FJB chants. Dude, I love when he called him Brandon.
Oh yeah, that was very nice.
God, it was good.
That was very nice.
T-Bond says, thanks for the live streaming this debacle, Nick. Good to see you. And Ty too. Thank you. Project Calm says, Trump is in total control now. Biden is literally throwing away his easy topics to go over what Trump wants to say. Yep. Yeah. And that was the thing. Trump didn't have to answer any questions. He could just choose to answer whatever was on his mind.
Trump, the abortion question was an early softball pitch for Biden, and Biden whiffed it, and Trump dealt with it masterfully. The environmental question was another easy pitch for Biden, and Trump dealt with it. So, I mean, my goodness, I got to give Trump credit. At least his team and him, they sat down and actually said, gee, I wonder what questions they're going to ask and how we should respond. Crazy.
Yeah. Carrie says, good to see you, Nick. Thanks for covering this. I'd never give CNN a view. Also, to the guy I don't know, Will I be allowed to hear anything? Lol, just kidding. Or am I? I think that was, we had both of our mics were up really high early on.
Oh,
I brought them
okay.
down. Psionic Dante says Trump needs to stay on point and dig deep. John Barrett says, what tard country voted these guys in? What's up, Nick? Gunner says, let's just settle this thing with a game of golf. I agree. I think a golf game between Trump and Biden would be terrific. That'd be good. They should. Could you imagine just 4 hours of the greatest TV ever would be Trump and Biden doing 18 holes somewhere and just back and forth razzing each other. God, that would be
Grumpy
great.
old men on steroids.
Oh wow, Joe,
Yeah.
you're 5 strokes in, which is better than Jill's ever gotten from you. You know, you just like drop the zingers. I would just, I want to see that, because like Trump has to. We know from some of his leaked comments from the first campaign how much he has to reel in his rough edges for this stuff. Could you imagine him just dropping heat on a golf course all over Biden? Gotta be great.
See, one of the reasons I like Trump is, I have the same personality. I try really hard to act nice. I really do. And most of the time I pull it off to some degree. But inside, it beats the heart of a raging psychopathic maniac who just wants to,
Like, let me say it. Just let me say it. Just please let me say it. Please let me. I can't say it.
That's it.
Johnny Badman says, notice they aren't asking Biden any targeted questions, only Trump. I think he did get a few eventually. George Lopez says, here's some Coke Bucks, Nick, the soda. Glad to see you still kicking. Keep up the good fight, Nose Pope. Hey, thanks, brother. Nick Brown, one of the best Trump responses. I don't know what Joe said. I don't think Joe knows what he said. Comedic gold. I tell you, that was good.
Oh, I tell you what, watch, if you guys are interested, watch the next few days of Trump giving speeches on the stump, because he's going to refer back to that and he is going to just pile and pummel. There's going to be some great sound bites over the next 72 hours from this debate.
We had a debate on CNN, friendly ground for President Biden, of course, and
they were fair. They were fair.
They're very fair. Great moderators. Dana, can't pronounce her own name, but she's lovely woman. If for a softball mitt, she looks great. But what you notice, I never said that by the end of the debate that Joe Biden looked confused, that he didn't know what he was doing, because frankly, he didn't know from the very start. Like I said, Joe didn't even know what he was saying. And it's clear that he doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what you're saying. What I hear you say every day is, let's make America great again. He just needs to do it. He just needs to go after him constantly. Kim Benz.
I don't think Biden improved his poll numbers on this.
No.
If there is any movement,
water.
I would expect a moderate move towards Trump, but I don't think. We're not going to have that ridiculous crap that we had when Biden had that psychotic Nazi episode in the State of the Union address.
Well, he did really go off on Charlottesville. Like he was really trying, like he's trying to tie Trump to something that's
finally, 2 days ago, said, yep, it's false. He didn't say that. I mean, Snopes, good grief.
Well, Snopes is a husband and wife team, literally just jerking each other off from their own fucking couch. And they're terrible. But no, but the Charlottesville thing, even let's say Trump did say it, like, let's say it wasn't false. You're picking Charlottesville now, like now that issue is so dead. I mean, when the fuck was that?
I understand Trump's desire to defend himself. I just think it might have been more effective to have just dismissed it. And, I didn't say that, but why are we wasting time with that? The American people don't care about that. What they care about is inflation and immigration. Oh, did you catch Biden
2017?
Yeah. Did you catch Biden using the word illegal alien?
He did that.
Apology. He did.
Maybe.
He'll need to apologize for that.
Charlottesville was 7 years ago. It's like, you can't go back to anything more recent than 7 years. There are swastikas coming out of the woods and the trees. Like, well, where do you think they got the materials to make the swastikas, Joe? They had to cut down the trees.
was that whole swastika thing, especially in the context of his party supporting Hamas.
Yeah,
I do wish Trump had Trump. I think that was a missed opportunity. Trump should have crammed Hamas right down Biden's throat. He should have been
I
a
think
lot
Trump
clearer on. Huh?
I don't know. Israel's a weird topic for people. Israel Palestine, and yeah, I mean Hamas is a shit organization.
Fair enough.
But there's a lot of
Trump's
people.
Trump's trying to flip Michigan, and the Muslim vote is a potentially a deciding factor. So maybe it was a political calculation.
And even people who are not like anti-Semitic or anti-Jew are really frustrated with how Israel's handled the situation. Like me, I don't get involved in trying to figure that shit out. I don't know enough about like it or the political situation over there to have an opinion. I don't really care. I just don't want us over there. Like I really don't want to send our troops over to fight that thing. That's kind of my position. But like when the people start getting into that online, you really see an anti-Israeli action position, and a lot of it on the right in some of the circles that Trump's trying to court. So I could see him straying away.
No, I think that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I have a lot stronger opinions on that, but that probably colored my thought. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Trump, that was a political, and I think a smart political move.
Yeah, it's
Trump. Trump made that point when he was talking about abortion. It wasn't really the greatest point to make at that moment when he said, "You've got to get elected." But he is keenly aware of that. Hitting Trump on abortion is ultimately, I think, not going to be very effective because Trump was never a particularly strong anti-abortion politician.
And he didn't. The thing that gets overblown is
he never really grandstanded on abortion that much. He doesn't like it, but that was never the centerpiece of his political identity.
Overturning, they want to paint the decision overturning Roe versus Wade as the Supreme Court going out against abortion, but it wasn't. And you cannot honestly frame it that way. All you can do is say the Supreme Court returned the power to police abortion back to the states where it belonged, in the first place. It's where it was, and there was no basis to bring it to the federal government in 73 or whenever they decided Roe versus Wade. It was never supposed to be there. So when you say, "Well, Trump's like, no, you can have your state gets to decide. You can have abortion."
Everybody has made fun of Roe v. Wade. As I said, my con law professor was a borderline communist, and he made fun of Roe v. Wade. I got called on in law school in con law for Roe v. Wade. I got called on in class for that case, and I said, well, professor, I can't figure out if they're deciding a Supreme Court case or they're having a seance. I said, I've got no idea what a penumbra is, and I don't know how an amendment to the Constitution can have emanations.
Well,
I said,
you rub it hard enough.
Contact the spirit world. So, Mr. Beard, why don't you know what a penumbra is? I said, well, in those days, kids, we didn't have the interwebs. We had to actually go to books and look it up, and that was too much trouble.
Kim Ben says, Nick, my husband has been down on his luck health-wise. Please tell him I love him, and I always will, and I will always take care of him. Take care of yourself, too. Oh, Kim, to your husband, Kim always loves you and will always take care of you.
Yeah.
Find some good health, my friend.
Same.
All right, here we go. The squid. Wait, make childcare half price for Black people? I thought they already did that with foster care and abortion. Damn.
Ooh.
Bernie Donnellan, thank you for the super
That's
chat.
harsh.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bernie, but did you ask me to wish you a happy birthday in chat earlier? I think you did. And if you did, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Gunner says, here's something for the $34 trillion fentanyl debt. Oh, thanks, Gunner. Alex Scott Thompson says, welcome back, brother. Hey, thank you. Diamond G says, Ty has the wonderful voice of Billy Bob Thornton.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
James D. Walker says, pro tip, Ty Beard was a great guest and provides some good insights, but he should learn from Ricada how to be best enjoyed with corn instrumentals.
Do I want to know what that means?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Bernie Donnellan, welcome to Paralegal. Thank you. Buckmaster says, Nick, why do you claim that what Aaron says might not be true instead of addressing how you are a C4 CK Lord? Do you mean cuck lord? Like Jack Murphy? Well, because what Aaron says might not be true. You get to decide that on your own, though, guys. You get to decide his credibility on your own without any help from me. Like I said, he gets to say whatever he wants to say. I hope he makes $1 million. Buckmaster says, Nick, nobody cares that you share your wife. You guys are adults. People are tired of you lying. Okay. Thanks. Johnny
That's you
Badman.
told.
Johnny Badman says the Trump campaign sent me a text. Oh, wait, I read that one. Alice Martinez says Trump is better communicator than Biden. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do we got here? Buckmaster says your wife went out of her way to lie and say your guys are only for each other. We love to laugh at your hypocrisy, not your crimes. Okay. Again, I have no idea what you're talking about here, but that's great. Alice Martinez, Biden is old, washed up president, Project Calm. So does Biden walk in tomorrow to the entire Democratic leadership with Hillary in front wanting to talk about last night?
No, Biden's
Hillary's got a whipping stick, like a yardstick. Well, Hillary would have a meter stick, I think.
I think Hillary would actually meet her match tangling with Dr. Jill Biden. I think that.
Oh yeah, that would be the cat fight no one wants to watch, though.
Yeah, I think that woman is every bit as manipulative and evil and everything else as Hillary Clinton ever was.
You know? Let's see. Buckmaster says Camelot told us you were having sex with hookers. Was April and your wife not enough? What made you be so degen? I think you may have misunderstood when Camelot was joking. Maybe. The Chugi Show Live says April is texting Hawk to a girl for tips to keep things interesting now that the crack is gone. Buckmaster says, Nick, I don't believe anything against your family. As males, we are the love, but dumb arse. Wash your hands next time. I'll try. Nunya Business says, found out this evening that my ex-wife died. Thankfully, she wasn't worth a toast. Oh, damn.
Ooh.
Rick Nikita says, in private, there's nothing better than starting to feel a big dry booger accumulate in your nostril and the feeling of unclogging and clarity that you feel after scooping it out. Why did you send that and say in private? I don't get it.
I think they thought Biden was about to do that. It looked frighteningly close. I was like, don't do it.
Red Storm 5150 says, have you considered a medication patch for Biden to carry him through? What was he rubbing? I don't know. He kept doing some weird stuff.
Up on Adderall. I think they gave him ADD meds.
Probably. Clown World, here's my pot shot. Have $5. Good to see you and Ty. Hey, thanks, man. Jules Pellico says, hi, Boomer. Glad you're okay. Thanks for streaming this. Oh, thank you. Dave Inspiration says, my broke ass supporting Nick's Second Amendment rights. Hashtag free Hunter Biden. Nice to live. You know, like to give that guy, look, Hunter Biden is whatever he is, but he might be the guy.
Have you not thoroughly enjoyed him making Second Amendment arguments, though? Has that not just been?
If he's the guy who's going to overturn 18 USC 922G, then he's the guy. And that's what it might take.
The Lord uses all kinds of people to do his will.
I mean, look, those restrictions on firearm use that go well beyond the scope of what any founder intended need to be struck down. They're insane. There's actually a really interesting story that
we're talking about a constitutional right here.
Yeah.
You don't get to abridge those just for the hell of it.
We have the recent decision from the Supreme Court upheld restrictions on people with active domestic violence restraining orders. Makes sense. The founders basically said, if you were adjudicated dangerous by a judge, we could take away a right. That's been the same way forever. There's plenty of analogs to it. Now, the thing that is DOJ is now asking the question, wait, the Supreme Court just said, if you've been adjudicated dangerous by a judge, we have nonviolent felons out here who have had their Second Amendment rights stripped out. They have never been adjudicated dangerous. They're not subject to a restraining order. They don't have a prior conviction of violence. And does that mean that they can have their gun rights back? Maybe. And then the other thing, of course, we have these different statuses of people, which are very nebulous federal statuses. Users of controlled substances or addicts to controlled substances being one that Hunter Biden is very much charged with. He is charged with being a user or addict of a controlled substance, and he's charged with having a gun during that time. What does that mean? What does user or addict mean? I challenge you to find it defined in the federal code. It's really difficult. And so these kind of questions, we go, wait, did the founders believe that if someone used some substance that they could not own a firearm? They lost their Second Amendment right prior to any conviction, prior to anything else. That's kind of a stretch. And so Hunter's the guy fighting that right now. And we're going to see a lot of those fights after Bruin.
I just appreciate the irony, if nothing else.
I love it. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
Pro 2A Biden.
I don't have any particular animus towards Hunter Biden. He's a degenerate, and he's obviously the stupid son, and a disappointment to his father. And my God, with Joe Biden as your dad, how much of a chance do you actually have to turn out right?
I don't know that him being a disappointment to Joe Biden is that much of a knock, frankly.
No. Well, I mean, this is a guy whose daughter says they took showers with her when she was a little girl. I mean, so Joe's,
weird dude.
Every Democrat that votes for Biden is voting for a pedo by their standards of justice.
Yeah. Nice to Lizard says, congrats on sobriety. I'm glad you're back, Nick. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Jay Liebgott says, Trump should have said, I wouldn't let Joe drive my golf cart. Why let him run the country?
That would have been a good line.
That would have been good.
No problem. I bet you Trump will fire that off in some speeches over the next 72 hours. By the way, somebody asked in the chat, was I the person that opened the world's loudest candy bar during the Depp trial? I don't remember doing that, but it does sound like something I do.
I think you did. It's like, dude, whenever I would have Drexel on, man, he'd bring like a cookie from a gas station, one of those crinkly bakery bags. He'd be like, and it's like opening the fucking Hellraiser cube to get it open. It's like, I'm like, dude, how long do you have to? It's a cookie. Just open the bag and grab it. He's like, it's like, I can get this cookie. It's like this. Well, hold on. For like 10 minutes, like Drex, just grab the fucking cookie. Anyway.
Well, I don't have a specific memory of it, but I'm willing, as I said, that does sound like something I'd do, so I'll take the hit.
Carrie says Trump should have asked, you were found not liable to be charged with any charges brought before you. So why do you think you're entitled to run the country? Missed opportunity. Oh yeah, talking about his.
I agree. I wish Trump had worked that in somehow. That that your own Justice Department said that you were too senile to be charged. So why should we?
Gen X Medic says if that's on Adderall, Joe got ripped off. The only
well, you don't know what he started from though.
Yeah, I was prescribed Adderall one time for my narcolepsy, and I took two. I took one day and one the next day. And the first time I took it, I literally fell asleep standing up. And then the second day, I was able to lay down before falling asleep. I told my doctor, and my doctor was like, never take that again. Don't take that. That's not the proper reaction. And that's why I don't have Adderall for narcolepsy. It was never, so when people talk about being like on Adderall and being really juiced from it, I don't understand that because it doesn't work that way in my brain.
I have ADD. I take Ritalin actually. I was prescribed that when I was a kid actually as part of a trial. They call it hyperactivity in those days. And since it worked, my doctor just said, well, let's stay with Ritalin. The thing about the ADD medications are they only work if you actually have ADD. If you're a normal person and you take Adderall or Ritalin or something, it's going to pop your eyeballs open. You'll be bouncing off walls. I'm surprised it would have that effect on you. That's interesting.
Yeah, she thought I might have some, may thought I had some adverse reaction or like she wasn't comfortable with the dose. I'm not sure. I had a really low dose, so it wasn't like some. I have no idea. All I know is I was holding actually our second born at the time, and I'm like, Lady Raggett, I'm like, you need to take the baby. You need to take the baby right now. Take the baby. What? I'm like, take the baby. She grabs the kid, and I fell into a chair, and I was out. Chris Clement says, here's to hoping things at the government calm down so you can get back to regular streams. Missed your viewpoints on stuff. Don't always agree with you, but respect you. Hashtag burden of proof is on the state. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thanks, man. Look, I never ask people to agree with me on anything, much less everything. I just hope that, people think. Like, if I can make someone think about an issue in a slightly different way, that's cool. I'm happy to do that. Real Patriot Party says, stand up, Nick. No sitting in front of the Joker. How about some unbreaded? Here's a random number, 742. Not for this stream. We're going to wrap up the stream in just a second. But I believe I'll be streaming tomorrow, and we can do some unbreaded very soon. Carrie says, Trump also should have asked Joe how many grandkids you have, Joe. Lamau, so sad.
Ooh, that would have been funny. That would have been funny too.
And then the blind lawyer says, Ty, I'm a lawyer that has been around medical, and I'm in Texas. If I can help Nick, let me know. I believe in due process, and you're a good attorney. Thank you.
Okay.
So there you go. Well, man, that's what I've got for super chats, and I think it's about time to wrap up because we've been going 3 hours here.
Some of us have to work tomorrow.
Believe me, I've got plenty to do as well. It's
been way too long. We were going to do something in March, and I wound up having to actually conduct business that night, and I had to cancel that. So, but
yeah, well, I was glad. I haven't been following along with any of this shit because I've got my own concerns. And like you said, hey, I want to stream the debates. And I was like, hell yes, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's something of a tradition, although this time around Drexel didn't have to come in at the very end, but
it's a little less alcohol this time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think to wrap it all up, I'd be curious about your wrap up. My wrap up is Trump did fine. Anybody that says he was over the top or obnoxious is full of it. He was for him. He was very disciplined. He wasn't needlessly antagonistic or offensive. Biden's body language was awful. His presentation, everything about him said he's a weak old man who's senile. But I don't think he was so awful that the Democrats will be able to get rid of him. I think
the Democrats getting rid of him is way too big of a risk at this point in the game.
No,
if they swap candidates, they lose.
The only way that was going to happen would be if he had like a serious freeze up and just complete collapse or something. Like I said, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. I think the CNN moderators did as good a job moderating as I've seen done.
They did better than any of last elections debates for sure.
Well, they were under a lot of scrutiny. I mean, they were catching all kinds of crap, and like today, for example, it got out that they were going to have a 2-minute delay instead of a 7-second delay, and it was real weird because CNN indignantly said that was false, but didn't actually say what the delay was going to be.
Sure,
kind of thing. So there's been a lot of fireball throwing over the last 48 hours, and I do think I think it, to their credit, they figured out that if they were, well, see, their own format kind of sabotaged them, right? Because by turning the other guy's mic off, that also cut their ability to play hall monitor way down.
Yep.
I think if they designed this format to benefit Joe Biden, I don't think it really did, because I think it forced Trump to be more, quote, presidential.
If they would have and if they would have started jumping in on Trump and cutting him off rather than maybe cueing Biden to cut Trump off, they would have really run into problems. I mean, as much as Trump is good at steamrolling Biden, especially with moderator assistance, had no problem stepping on Trump in the last round of debates, last election. He could step in just as he wasn't as funny or effective with it, but he could certainly cut Trump off of a point. And for better or worse, as good as Trump is at these sort of things, he is distractible.
Yeah,
and
he is.
he's a little prideful, obviously, and so he will get, like you said, he will go down rabbit holes. And I think they cut off Biden's ability to distract Trump. Trump was able to keep his ability to distract Biden mostly by talking about golf.
Yeah, I'm fine with this format. I like this format actually, because that bickering with one another back and forth just wastes time, in my opinion. And I do think it empowers the moderators to take a more aggressive role in putting their fingers on the scale. But yeah, I think, if there is an impact, I would expect it would be a moderate shift towards Trump, and probably aren't even going to be able to tell because that's the trending anyway. Trump continues to slowly, increase. I follow the real clear politics average of polls, and Trump's up at 1.5% now. The problem is they only average like the last 7 or 8 polls or however many they do. And so you invariably get this crazy outlier that has Biden up by 9 points.
Right.
That wipes that average down. But if you look at them, a real good thing you can do is just get rid of the 2 most extreme polls in your sample. And then average
that's what you would tend to, I mean, that's what they did with Olympic scoring, right?
Yeah. I mean, what's notable is that Trump's lead in the popular vote is consistently about a percentage point above Biden. And when you look at where he was 4 years ago, you're regardless of where the number actually falls, you're looking at a tremendous swing against Biden. We're going to find out how big the margin of fraud is. By the way, I would compliment Trump too on not overly going down the rabbit hole of a fraudulent election. He didn't really take the bait too much on that.
No, he started to, and then he reeled it back in. I think that's the right move.
Yeah,
it's not. Agree. It's just not. I mean, I know it's a personal issue for him. He's vulnerable to that line, but he needs to stay off it because the people who believe it they believe it, and the people who don't, they're not going to be convinced at a debate.
Well, Trump's got the best argument a candidate can have. Are you better off under him than you were under me? I mean, that's it. That's his whole campaign. Immigration, inflation, immigration, inflation, immigration, inflation. Pound that, pound that, pound that, because those are the 2 issues that people are genuinely concerned about. They don't give a shit about January 6th. I had some idiot at that convention. He's a lefty that has wanted a piece of me for some time, and I'd had a couple drinks, and he walked over and proceeded to, finally engage. And I said, "What's on your mind? I mean, you've been giving me the stink eye for 2 years." And he wanted to go off on one side. How can you support Trump when he, when he is an insurgent? I said, okay. I said, you would agree that an insurgency is an armed attempt to overthrow the government, right? And so at the very least, Trump had to have either done that or directly encouraged his followers to do that, right? Yeah. I said, then find me one example of him ever doing that. He goes, yeah. Well, he did. I said, you got your phone right there. Look it up. Find me actual tweet. Well, I said, no. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You find me one example of him actually saying y'all need to overthrow the government or saying something that can reasonably be interpreted that, then we'll talk. But I'm going to tell you right now, he never said that. So
the government that he was running at the time still. Yeah. Well, it's hard to remember that.
Yeah. Your argument is total bullshit. And he sat there like a guppy at feeding time, just kind of, and then he just throws his hands up and storms off. And I'm like, but people that are paying twice as much for food now than they were 3 years ago, they don't much care about 1/6. I did think that was very smart. Trump said, well, on 1/6, we had gas prices that were this, we had inflation that was this. That was a very nice play too. So I think Trump did very well. Ty rambles so much and never gets the social cues to stop. No, I don't. And yet you listen. Anyway, my friend, I've enjoyed it.
Wait, I got a couple chats left, and then we'll do it.
The grift must go on.
There's 3 more. Will Heron says, Nick, can you speak on how April is, and is she living with you all? Let me answer in reverse order. No, she's not living with me or you all, whoever you all is. Can I speak on how she is? I could probably speak on my opinion of how she is, but I'll let her speak for herself if she ever chooses to. Daff B3TA says, hope you escape without too much hardship. Would love to have Unbreaded come back, Mr. Lawpope. Keep an eye on the channel tomorrow. Looking to stream sometime tomorrow. Maybe it might still be in the evening. We'll see. Daff Beta also says, excluding RFK was a bitch move. His rabid Zionism has sunk any chance he had to be POTUS, but he'd have torn strips off the Donald in the debate. Seems politics has become nothing more than kayfabe. I mean, I think he would have maybe impacted Biden a little bit too.
Guys, RFK, it's fun to watch him, cause the Democrats trouble, but he is a straight running nut job. Okay. He is not some magical third party candidate who somehow is going to bring balance to the force. He is a kook. Okay. And my theory on kooks is I'd rather just not have him around. He's got no chance of getting elected. He would have been nothing more than a distraction. And you always run the risk that he and Biden wind up teaming up on Trump.
Yep.
We saw Perot do that to George H.W. Bush in 1992. Bill Clinton doesn't get elected president in 92 without that little shit Ross Perot. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Ross Perot definitely
torched. So these third party spoilers, they're like suicide bombers. We don't need to be around them. Just my opinion.
Well, with that,
could be wrong.
My friend, thank you for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it. To the
As
chat,
always, I've been had a good time.
To the chat, stay tuned to recadalaw.locals.com for stream announcements. Like I said, looking for opportunities to stream. I know people are wondering where they've been. Well, I've been very, very busy. Lots of talks with lawyers and other people, and not the fun kind. So, it's part of it.
You stay strong, my friend.
You have to do what you have to do. So
there are those, yes, there are those of us who do care about you. So,
I'm well aware. Well aware. All right, guys. Okay. Thanks a bunch. Ty and I are out of here. Have a good night. Peace. Peace. That was the wrong one.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an ardbeg, a bow, more of that frog. The spirits flow as the ones who get on her blood. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear lost-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. So pour out an Ardbeg, bow more at Lafroig. Spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear Lost Planning tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the thought better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what